everyone, I'm Brenda Harvey, author of the Conspiracy series, and it has been a while since I have posted here. But I am back and ready to dive right back into things, and oh my gosh, the last few months have just been insane. But today I really wanted to talk about sci-fi, which is a genre that up until recently I have tended to avoid. But now I would really like to talk about one of my new favorite genres, so let's just get into the video. So, a few weeks ago I finished Fahrenheit 451 and I loved it. I definitely recommend that you read it. I can leave an Amazon link to it in the description, I think. I just got this at Barnes & Noble, and I'm currently reading 1984, and I am really enjoying it. And I think why I was steering away from sci-fi previously is the sci-fi books that we are introduced to in elementary and middle school, they are focused on the sci-fi element of it, as in the futuristic parts, the insane new technology, things like that. But that is not all sci-fi, and after reading Fahrenheit 451, I was my eyes just opened, because this is an amazing book, and one of the things that I really like about sci-fi is you can address things that you can't address in realistic fiction, and same goes for fantasy. So I think it was C.S. Lewis who gave this example, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's, imagine you have an alien mother and her two children, and they leave their planet and come to Earth to seek refuge and be safe. But one of her children goes wild and is harming humanity, so she takes her family and leaves, even though it could kill her family. But it saves the Earth. We can see this message and interpret this story a lot easier than if this was realistic fiction. And I think a lot of realistic fiction, people just get trapped because you have to stay in the realm of possibility while also not being too opinionated in a way. And yes, writing is pure opinion, and it is a great way to advocate for issues that you believe in. I don't know if you can hear that, but Freya's in here, so. And I don't know if you've seen The Matrix, and if you haven't, you need to see it. It is such a good movie. It talks about philosophy. It goes into the issue of free will and do you have choice. And even if you're not religious, it does talk about God and higher power and things like that. And personally, I really enjoyed it. But what Fahrenheit 451 is really talking about is the danger of knowledge. And I say danger loosely because there's always this element of, if you know too much, what's going to happen, especially if you research something like for the Conspiracy series, which is my published works. It talks about murders, and so I did a lot of research into that kind of thing. But in some ways, that's not necessarily a good thing, because that means just the sheer amount that I learned from that, it's scary, and it's also nerve-wracking to other people. So just keep that in mind, you guys, because, oh my gosh, where was I going with that? Anyway, Fahrenheit 451. It was published in the 1950s originally, and so this was after World War II. And we're also talking about, like, along with 1984, we're talking about kind of like the Red Scare and kind of that, which is another thing I really like about writing, is you can address things that are going on in your world without directly addressing them. And that's what I love about fiction, especially that, like, sci-fi, fantasy genre, because you do not need to stay in the realm of possibility, and you don't need to worry about offending people as much. Now, there are some things that you have to be careful of, but on the whole, you can have these two different subgroups that aren't real, but can represent something very real. And again, Fahrenheit 451 is talking, like, it's, like, the dangers of learning and why and how if people know too much, then they start thinking and they can go against what society, the government, the people in power believe. And that is why the firemen burn down people's houses if they have books, and they burn books and books are banned. Again, Fahrenheit 451, I highly, highly encourage you to read it. And if you did read it, I encourage you to read it again, because I think as you get older, you can appreciate these things a lot more if you can think about it. And again, just, like, read books with your brain turned on, which, like, short tangent here, my books, the conspiracy series, they are not meant to be taken as good relationships or the best role models, because this was really a creative outlet for me in a difficult time. And read it along with all books with your brain turned on, and think about all of this. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so sci-fi, you definitely have those books where it's, like, out there and it's like, oh my gosh, in your face, sci-fi, fantasy, violence, and I know, like, Star Wars is kind of, like, in the middle, but for right now we're going to call it sci-fi. It kind of it's very much focused on that sci-fi element and the whole space theme and things like that. Fahrenheit 451, on the other hand, does not have as much of that in your face, and I think partially sci-fi from a while ago, like the 50s for Fahrenheit 451, a lot of them predicted things that happen today, so some of that, like, in-your-face future stuff is normalized to us. And, like, if you watch the original Star Trek, like, they had video calls. That wasn't really a thing in, was it the 60s? Whenever Star Trek came out, video calls, that didn't exist, and now that's normal for us. Fahrenheit 451, you have wireless earbuds. So some of that, like, more sci-fi stuff from older works is not going to be as in your face just because that is modern technology. And there definitely are things like fireproof houses and having an incinerator in every single house that is not normal, but you have this, but it's not focused on that. It's focused on the human element, which, again, with the example of the aliens, you see the fantasy element, but you're focusing on that human aspect, and you're not focusing on the technology and the sci-fi element. You're focused on that human element, and that also goes for the Matrix, even though, yes, it is super sci-fi. you're focusing on that human element, and where I think sci-fi often goes wrong is they forget about that human element. And you cannot forget about the human element because it's not going to be relatable, and then you're going to have people like me who thought they hated sci-fi because you never have that human element, and including in fantasy, just all the time, you need that human element, and you need your audience to connect to your characters, and that is super, super important. And I am going to wrap that up here. I highly encourage you guys to read Fahrenheit 451 and Out of the Silent Planet and 1984, and start diving more into that sci-fi element. If you haven't, if you are sci-fi people, let me know what other sci-fi books I should be reading. After 1984, I plan on going to Slaughterhouse 5. Accept my books here. And just let me know other book suggestions you have for me. Make sure to buy my 3 books, The Conspiracy, The Lead, and The Killers, as well as check out my website. All of those links are in the description. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of me and more videos like this. Also, one more thing. I have cleaned my bookshelf on this channel before, but I have gotten a lot more books recently, and I need to clean it again. So would you like to see that? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.